My name is Jenna, and this is the story of how my older brother tried to steal our family's bakery, only to discover that our late mother had made sure he could never touch what was rightfully mine. I was 7 years old when I first learned to knead dough. My mother, Patricia, owned Sweet Haven Bakery in Halifax, a cozy corner shop that had been serving the neighborhood for 23 years. The smell of fresh bread and cinnamon rolls was the backdrop of my entire childhood. My brother Tyler was 12 then, already declaring that he was too old for baking and more interested in video games than buttercream frosting. Mom never pushed him. She'd just smile and say, "Everyone finds their path, sweetheart." But I found mine early. By the time I was 15, I could pipe royal icing as steadily as Mom. And by 18, I was creating wedding cakes that made brides cry happy tears. Tyler, meanwhile, went to business school in Toronto. He came home for holidays, always dressed sharp, always talking about his startup ideas and investment opportunities. Mom would listen proudly, but I noticed something in her eyes, a guardedness that hadn't been there before. When Tyler asked to borrow money for his ventures, she'd politely decline, citing bakery expenses. He'd leave annoyed, and the visits became shorter each year. I stayed in Halifax, working alongside Mom. The bakery wasn't glamorous, but it was ours. We'd open at 5 in the morning, and I'd watch the sunrise through the kitchen window while Mom taught me her secret recipes. She never wrote them down. "These stay in the family," she'd say, tapping her temple. "In here and in your heart." When I turned 23, Mom sat me down after closing one evening. Her hands were flour-dusted, and she looked tired but determined. "Jenna, I need to tell you something important," she said. "I've been to see my lawyer." My stomach dropped. "Mom, are you sick?" No, nothing like that." She squeezed my hand. "But I'm not getting younger, and I want to make sure you're protected. Sweet Haven is going to be yours. Not half yours, all yours. I've put it in a trust with you as the sole beneficiary." I was stunned. "What about Tyler?" Her expression hardened slightly. "Tyler will receive other assets, my savings, the house. But the bakery is yours. You've earned it, with every early morning, every burned finger, every customer you've made smile. This is your legacy, honey." "Does Tyler know?" "Not yet. I'll tell him when the time is right." She pulled out a manila envelope. "These are copies of all the documents. Keep them somewhere safe. The originals are with my attorney, Marianne Chen. If anything happens to me, you call her immediately. Promise me." I promised, though the conversation felt surreal. Mom was only 57 and healthy. Why did we need to talk about this now? 3 months later, I understood why. Mom had a stroke while driving home from the farmer's market. She died instantly when her car went off the road. The doctors said she wouldn't have felt any pain, but that was cold comfort. My whole world shattered in a single phone call. The funeral was packed. Our regular customers came, some I'd known since childhood. They brought casseroles and memories and tears. Tyler flew in from Toronto, looking genuinely devastated. For a few days, we were just two siblings mourning their mother, and I let myself believe we'd support each other through this. The illusion lasted exactly 1 week. Tyler stayed at Mom's house, now his house, according to the will. I stayed in my small apartment above a bookstore, too heartbroken to go into the bakery. Our head baker, Margaret, kept things running, but she called daily, worried. "The place doesn't feel right without you or your mom," she said gently. "Take your time, but we need you back." I was planning to return the following Monday when Tyler called me over to the house. He was sitting at Mom's kitchen table, with papers spread everywhere, looking every bit the businessman. "We need to talk about the bakery," he said without preamble. "Okay." I sat down carefully, uneasy at his tone. "I've been going through Mom's finances. The bakery is profitable, but barely. The equipment is outdated. The location could be better, and frankly, it's not worth the hassle to run for such small returns." "Tyler, it's not about—" He held up a hand. "I've found a buyer. A commercial real estate developer wants the property. They're offering $450,000. That's incredibly generous for that corner lot. We split it 50-50. You get $225, and you can do whatever you want. Maybe open something smaller, more modern. I felt like I'd been slapped. We? Tyler. Mom left the bakery to me. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Mom left her estate to both of us. I've seen the will. The house and savings come to me, but the business assets are split equally between us. That includes the bakery. That's not true. Mom, put it in a trust, she told me. Jenna. His voice took on a patronizing tone I'd never heard before. I know you're grieving, and maybe you misunderstood what Mom said. But I've been through everything with her lawyer. Well, a lawyer. There's no special trust. We co-own the bakery 50-50, and as co-owner, I'm making the business decision to sell. The developer needs an answer by Friday. My hands were shaking. Which lawyer did you talk to? Richard Brennan. Very reputable firm downtown. That's not Mom's lawyer. Her lawyer is Marianne Chen. Tyler's expression flickered just for a second, but I caught it. Brennan is handling the estate. Look, I know change is hard, but this is a good deal. You can't run that place alone, and I'm certainly not moving back to Halifax to bake cupcakes. Be realistic. I stood up, my grief crystallizing into something sharper. I need to see those documents. I'll email you copies. Sign them and return them to me by Thursday. The closing is next week. He was already looking back at his phone, dismissing me. I drove straight to the bakery. It was after hours, but I had keys. I sat in the dark kitchen, where Mom and I had spent thousands of hours together, and I cried until I couldn't breathe. Then I remembered her words. If anything happens to me, you call her immediately. I found Marianne Chen's card in my wallet, tucked behind my driver's license where I'd put it months ago. I called her cell number, not caring that it was 9 at night. She answered on the third ring. Jenna? I've been hoping to hear from you. I'm so sorry about your mother. Miss Chen, my brother says he owns half the bakery. He says there's no trust. There was a pause, and I heard papers rustling. Can you come to my office tomorrow morning? We need to talk in person. And Jenna? Don't sign anything Tyler gives you. Nothing at all. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying Mom's words, wondering if I'd misunderstood. Maybe Tyler was right. Maybe grief had confused me. Marianne's office was in a restored Victorian house in the South End. She met me at the door herself, a petite woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Sit down, dear. I need to explain some things. She opened a thick file folder with Mom's name on it. Your mother came to see me 2 years ago. She was very specific about what she wanted. Sweet Haven Bakery, including the property, equipment, recipes, and business name, was placed in an irrevocable trust with you as the sole beneficiary. Tyler receives the house and her investment accounts, which total approximately $300,000. The bakery and property are valued at around $600,000, and they're entirely yours. Relief flooded through me. Then why does Tyler think? Because he's lying, or because he's consulted with someone who didn't have access to the complete estate information? Marianne's expression hardened. Has he presented you with any documents to sign? He said he'd email them. Don't open them. Don't respond. She pulled out several bound documents. These are certified copies of the trust documents, property deeds, and business registration. All list you as the sole owner. Your mother also left you something else. She handed me a sealed envelope with my name in Mom's handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest Jenna, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope Marianne has explained everything. I need you to understand why I made these decisions. I love both my children, but love doesn't mean blindness. Tyler has always been ambitious, and there's nothing wrong with that. But over the years, I watched him become someone who sees people and places as transactions. He's asked me for money repeatedly for businesses that failed, for investments that never materialized. I helped him once, twice, 3 times, but I came to realize that no amount would ever be enough because he doesn't value what I value. You, my darling girl, understand what Sweet Haven really is. It's not just a business. It's where Mrs. Kowalski comes every Saturday for the same blueberry muffin because it reminds her of her mother. It's where the Henderson family orders their children's birthday cakes year after year. It's where our community gathers, celebrates, and mourns together. You've always known this. You've learned not just my recipes, but my purpose. I've protected your inheritance legally, but you need to protect it practically. Tyler may try to pressure you, manipulate you, or make you feel guilty. Don't let him. You have every right to what I'm giving you, because you've poured your heart into it. Stand strong, sweetheart. You're braver than you know. And when you're mixing dough at 5 in the morning, know that I'm so incredibly proud of you. All my love. Mom. I was crying before I finished reading. Marianne quietly pushed a box of tissues across her desk. Your mother was very wise, she said gently. She anticipated this exact scenario. Now, has Tyler mentioned a buyer for the property? I nodded. A developer. $450 for the lot. Marianne made a note. That's significantly under market value for that corner. The property alone is worth $500,000, and with the established business, closer to $6. If Tyler is working with a buyer, he's either been dramatically lowballed or he's getting something on the side, I finished, understanding dawning. Possibly. Regardless, he has no legal authority to sell anything. The property isn't his. What's your next step? I thought about Mom's letter. About all those mornings in the bakery. About the life she'd built and trusted me to continue. I'm going back to work. And I'm going to tell my brother to back off. Mariana smiled. Before you do, let me give you something else. She handed me a business card. This is my colleague, David Park. He specializes in business law and fraud cases. If Tyler escalates this, if he forges documents or interferes with your business operations, you'll need someone like David. The reality of what might be coming settled over me. Do you think he'd actually do that? I think your mother didn't create an irrevocable trust without reason. She knew Tyler, and she protected you accordingly. Trust her judgment. I went straight to the bakery from Marianne's office. Margaret was decorating a tower of cupcakes, and when she saw me, her face lit up. You're back! Oh, honey, I'm so glad. I hugged her tightly. I'm sorry I left you alone for so long. Don't you dare apologize. Are you okay? Getting there. I tied on an apron, feeling the familiar weight of it settle on my shoulders. Margaret, what has my brother said to you? Has he been here? Her expression shuddered slightly. He came by twice, asked a lot of questions about revenue, suppliers, operating costs. I told him he'd need to talk to you about business matters. He didn't seem pleased. If he comes back, don't tell him anything. And if he claims any authority over this place, call me immediately. Margaret studied my face, then nodded slowly. There's something else you should know. A man came by yesterday. Said he was from Brennan and Associates, needed to evaluate the property for estate purposes. I didn't let him in, but he took pictures from the street. My jaw tightened. Tyler was moving forward as if he had the right. As if I didn't exist. That evening, Tyler called me. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. And again. Finally, he texted, "Need those documents signed. As soon as possible. Buyer is getting impatient. Don't mess this up for both of us." I didn't respond. Instead, I spent the evening in the bakery's small office, going through every file, every receipt, every piece of paper Mom had kept. I found her handwritten recipe book, the one she'd always said was just for us. Inside the front cover, she'd written, "For Jenna, who has the gift." The next morning, Tyler showed up at the bakery at 6 a.m., right as I was pulling the first batch of croissants from the oven. The bell above the door chimed, and he strode in, looking annoyed. "You've been ignoring my calls." "I've been busy. We open in 30 minutes. "Jenna, this is ridiculous. I need those signatures. The buyer is threatening to walk." I wiped my hands on my apron and faced him directly. "There is no we, Tyler. And you know exactly why." His expression shifted, became calculating. "What did that lawyer tell you?" "The truth. That mom left this place to me, only me, and that you have absolutely no authority to sell anything. For a moment, I saw genuine anger flash across his face before he composed himself. Mom was confused at the end. She was getting older, and that lawyer probably took advantage. Stop. My voice was harder than I'd ever used with him. I have the documents. The trust is ironclad. I spoke with Marianne Chen, and I know exactly what Mom intended. This bakery is mine. Tyler laughed, but it was cold. You really think you can run this place alone? You're 23 years old, Jenna. You have no business experience, no capital for upgrades, no vision beyond making the same old-fashioned pastries Mom made. This place is dying, and you're too sentimental to see it. Each word was designed to hurt, and they did. But I thought of Mom's letter, her faith in me, and I stood my ground. Maybe I am sentimental, but this dying business has a waiting list for wedding cakes, regular customers who've been coming here for decades, and a profit margin that kept Mom comfortable for 23 years. You want to sell it because you see quick money. I want to keep it because I see home. You're making a mistake. No, Tyler. You made the mistake. You assumed I'd be easy to manipulate. You assumed I wouldn't know about the trust. You assumed wrong. He stepped closer, and for the first time, I felt a flutter of real fear. You know what? Keep your little bakery. Run it into the ground. But don't come crying to me when you can't make rent, or when the equipment finally dies and you can't afford to replace it. Mom gave you a millstone, not a gift, and you're too naive to understand the difference. He left, and the door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Margaret appeared from the kitchen, her face pale. I heard all that. Jenna, are you all right? I will be. But my hands were shaking as I went back to the croissants. For 3 days, things were quiet. I threw myself into work, arriving earlier and staying later than ever. The bakery became my refuge and my purpose. Customers noticed I was back, and many offered condolences and support. Mrs. Kowalski hugged me and cried, saying my mother would be so proud. Then, on Thursday afternoon, a man in a suit appeared. He introduced himself as Richard Brennan and asked to speak with me privately. I represent Tyler Morrison regarding the estate of Patricia Morrison, he said, his tone professionally neutral. I understand there's been some confusion about the disposition of Sweet Haven Bakery. There's no confusion. The bakery is held in trust with me as sole beneficiary. You can verify this with my mother's attorney, Marianne Chen. Brennan's expression didn't change. Miss Chen has provided certain documents, yes. However, my client believes there may be grounds to contest the trust. Your mother was in her late 50s when she created it, and there are questions about whether she fully understood the implications of disinheriting her eldest child from a significant asset. I felt cold. She didn't disinherit him. He received the house and substantial savings. Nevertheless, Mr. Morrison is prepared to file a legal challenge. These proceedings can be lengthy and expensive. Court costs, attorney fees, expert witnesses, the expenses could easily exceed $100,000. Even if you ultimately prevail, the financial burden would be significant for someone in your position. The threat was clear. Tyler couldn't win legally, so he'd bleed me dry trying to defend what was rightfully mine. However, Brennan continued, Mr. Morrison is willing to reach a settlement. He'll withdraw any legal challenge in exchange for 40% ownership of the business. You'd retain control of operations, but he'd receive 40% of profits and have a say in major business decisions, including any future sale. Absolutely not. Miss Morrison, I encourage you to think carefully. I don't need to think. The answer is no. My mother created that trust specifically to prevent exactly this scenario. If Tyler wants to waste his money on a frivolous lawsuit, that's his choice. But I won't give him a single percentage point of what Mom left me. Brennan sighed, like I was being unreasonable. I'll convey your response to my client. But Miss Morrison, legal battles can destroy small businesses even when they win. The stress, the distraction, the costs many business owners find, it's simply not worth it. After he left, I called Marianne immediately. She listened to everything, then said grimly, This is intimidation, pure and simple. The trust is bulletproof. Tyler knows this, which is why he's trying to scare you into settling. Do not engage with Brennan again. Refer all communication to me. And Jenna? I'm going to connect you with David Park. It's time to go on offense. David Park turned out to be younger than I expected, maybe mid-30s, with an easy smile that belied the sharpness in his eyes. We met at his office that evening. Your brother is playing a dangerous game, he said, after reviewing everything. Threatening baseless litigation to extract a settlement could be considered extortion. But more importantly, I think there's something else going on. The developer who supposedly wants to buy your property, did Brennan mention a name? No, Tyler just said a commercial real estate developer. David made some calls, working his contacts. Within an hour, he had information. The company is called North Point Development. They've been buying up properties in your neighborhood, planning a mixed-use complex. Your corner lot is key to their plans. Without it, their project doesn't work. And here's the interesting part. Tyler incorporated a consulting company 3 months ago, before your mother died. He's been positioning himself as a local liaison for development projects. The pieces clicked into place. He'd get a finder's fee, or a percentage of the development deal. If North Point bought your property for $450, they'd turn around and develop it into something worth millions. Tyler's cut could be substantial, certainly more than his legitimate inheritance. But he needed me to agree to sell. Exactly. And when you didn't, he shifted to plan B. Intimidate you into giving him partial ownership, then force a sale as co-owner. David leaned forward. Jenna, your brother committed fraud when he represented himself as having authority over your property. He almost certainly lied to Brennan about the circumstances. And if he forged any documents to show North Point, that's a crime. What do I do? We document everything, every conversation, every threat, every interaction with Brennan. We send a cease and desist letter, making clear that Tyler has no ownership interest and no authority. And we wait to see if he's foolish enough to push further. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Tyler as a kid, about how we used to be close. Where had that brother gone? When had money become more important than family? The cease and desist letter went out Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, Tyler called me. I didn't answer, but his voicemail was venomous. You're being incredibly stupid, Jenna. You think you're protecting Mom's legacy? You're destroying it. That bakery will fail because you don't have what it takes. And when it does, don't expect any help from me. You made your choice. I saved the voicemail and forwarded it to David. Then, something unexpected happened. Margaret came to me on Monday morning, looking uncomfortable. Jenna, I need to tell you something. Tyler offered me money to quit. He said the bakery was going to close anyway, and I should take his offer before I was out of a job with nothing. My stomach dropped. When did this happen? Last week. I told him no, obviously. But he also talked to Luis and Stephanie, our other 2 employees. I don't know what he offered them. I gathered the staff together that afternoon and told them everything, the truth about the trust, Tyler's attempts to force a sale, the legal situation. I didn't want any more secrets or surprises. Luis, who'd worked for Mom for 8 years, shook his head in disgust. Your mom was a good woman. She treated us like family. We're not going anywhere, Jenna. You tell your brother he can take his offers and shove them. Stephanie, younger and more nervous, asked, but what if there is a lawsuit? What happens to us? There won't be, I said, with more confidence than I felt. The trust is solid. Tyler is bluffing. And even if he tries something, we have lawyers who know what they're doing. Sweet Haven isn't going anywhere. Over the next 2 weeks, Tyler tried everything. He contacted our suppliers, claiming to be the new owner, and trying to change accounts. He posted on social media that the bakery was under new management and would be undergoing changes. He even showed up during business hours, trying to assert authority in front of customers. Each time, I shut him down. I had our suppliers verify ownership through Marianne. I posted clarifications on social media, explaining that I was the sole owner and nothing was changing. And when Tyler showed up during business hours, I had David's number on speed dial and made it clear I'd call the police if necessary. But it was exhausting. I was running on 4 hours of sleep, constantly worried about the next crisis. My staff was supportive, but I could see the stress affecting them too. Customers started asking questions. The joy Mom had built into Sweet Haven was being poisoned by Tyler's campaign. Then Margaret found the cameras. She was cleaning the storage room, moving some old boxes, when she noticed a small device tucked behind a shelf. It was a wireless camera, clearly recently installed, pointing toward the office where I kept all the business files. "There's another one in the kitchen," she said, her voice shaking. "Behind the cookware rack." We found 4 cameras in total. Tyler had been spying on us, probably hoping to find something, anything he could use against me. Maybe evidence of financial mismanagement, or health code violations, or just information to give North Point about our operations. I photographed everything carefully before removing them, then called David immediately. "This is breaking and entering, illegal surveillance, and possibly stalking," David said, his tone grim. "We need to file a police report. And Jenna? This is escalating in a dangerous direction. Your brother isn't acting rationally anymore." The police took the report, but the officer was frank with me. "Unless we can prove he installed them, it's hard to prosecute. The cameras aren't registered to anyone, and without footage of him placing them, we can't make an arrest. But we'll file the report, and it creates a record if things escalate." Things did escalate. 2 days later, I arrived at the bakery at 5 a.m. to find the locks changed. There was a note taped to the door: "Property under legal dispute. No entry until matter is resolved. Brennan and Associates." I called David immediately, my hands shaking with rage and fear. "He can't do this. He can't just lock me out of my own business." "He absolutely cannot. Stay there. I'm calling a locksmith and the police. Don't leave." It took 3 hours to resolve. The police confirmed that the locks had been illegally changed, that I was the legal owner, and that Brennan had no authority to restrict my access. A locksmith changed the locks again. I made sure to get different ones this time. But we'd lost an entire morning of business, and I'd had to call customers to cancel their orders. The financial damage was minimal. The emotional damage was severe. That evening, David came to the bakery with news. "We've compiled enough for a restraining order. The cameras, the lock changing, the harassment of your employees. It's a pattern of behavior designed to interfere with your business operations. We can also pursue criminal charges for the illegal surveillance and the lock incident." "But Jenna, I need to be honest with you. These kinds of family legal battles can drag on for years. Tyler has money, and he's willing to spend it. Are you prepared for a long fight?" I thought about Mom's letter, about her faith in me, about the business she'd built and the community she'd served. "I'll do whatever it takes." The restraining order was granted within a week. Tyler was prohibited from coming within 100 meters of the bakery or contacting me or my staff. Brennan withdrew from the case, apparently. When David explained the criminal implications of what had been done, Brennan decided representing Tyler wasn't worth the risk to his reputation. But Tyler wasn't done. He filed his lawsuit anyway, claiming undue influence and lack of capacity when Mom created the trust. The legal papers arrived certified mail, thick and intimidating, full of formal language about psychological manipulation and cognitive decline. Reading Tyler's claims about Mom that she'd been manipulated by me, that she hadn't understood what she was doing, felt like being stabbed. He was twisting our relationship, our love, into something ugly to justify his greed. Marianne and David prepared our response, but they warned me it would be expensive. Legal fees could run $50,000 or more before we even got to trial. "Is there any way to settle?" I asked, exhausted. "Not by giving him ownership, but just to make this stop?" "We could offer him a lump sum payment," David said. "But Jenna, that rewards his behavior. And there's no guarantee he'd accept anything less than what he's asking for." I was trapped. Fighting was expensive. Surrendering was unthinkable. Then, something unexpected happened. Margaret came to me with an idea. "What if we crowdfunded?" she asked. "Not for money you're handling the legal costs, but for support. Let the community know what's happening. Your mom had customers who loved her, Let them help. I was hesitant. It felt like airing private family drama publicly. But Margaret persisted. Tyler is counting on you being isolated and overwhelmed. Show him you're not alone. We created a simple website explaining the situation. I didn't ask for money, just for people to share their memories of Mom in Sweet Haven, to explain why places like our bakery mattered in a world of chain stores and corporate development. The response was overwhelming. Within days, hundreds of people had posted. Mrs. Kowalski wrote about how Mom had baked her daughter's wedding cake for free when money was tight. The Hendersons shared photos spanning 15 years of birthday cakes. Teachers from the local school talked about how Mom had donated pastries for fundraisers every single year. Local media picked up the story. A reporter from the Halifax Chronicle-Herald came by, and I gave a careful interview focusing on small business and community, not family drama. But the message was clear. This wasn't just about one bakery. It was about whether places with history and heart could survive in a world that valued quick profits over everything else. The publicity cut both ways. Tyler's lawyer filed a motion claiming I was conducting a media campaign to prejudice potential jurors, but it also brought unexpected support. A business owner from downtown called me. I went through something similar with my sister. I know a lawyer who works pro bono on cases like this. Can I connect you? A customer started a petition to designate Sweet Haven as a heritage property, which would complicate any future development plans. Over 2,000 people signed in the first week. Most surprisingly, someone from North Point Development reached out. Not officially, it was an informal coffee meeting with one of their project managers, speaking off the record. "We've been watching this situation," she said carefully. "And we want you to know that we had no idea Tyler Morrison didn't have authority to negotiate. He represented himself as co-owner and provided documents that appeared legitimate." "Were they forged?" She hesitated. "Our legal team is reviewing everything. But between you and me, some of the signatures don't match what we're now seeing from your mother's actual attorney. We may have been victims of fraud ourselves." This was huge. If North Point had been deceived by forged documents, they had their own legal grounds against Tyler, and they had far more resources than I did to pursue it. "What happens now?" I asked. "That's up to our lawyers. But I'll say this. We're not interested in property that comes with this kind of controversy. Even if Tyler somehow won, we wouldn't buy from him at this point. The negative publicity alone makes it not worth it." Tyler's whole plan was falling apart. Without North Point as a buyer, his finder's fee disappeared. Without the ability to force me to sell, his investment of time and legal fees was wasted. But wounded animals are dangerous. And Tyler was wounded. The final confrontation came on a rainy Tuesday evening in October. I was closing up the bakery alone, everyone else had left, and I was doing the books in the office. I heard the front door chime and looked up to see Tyler standing there, soaked from the rain. He wasn't supposed to be there. The restraining order was clear. "I called the police," I said immediately, my phone already in my hand. "They're on their way." "I just want to talk, Jenna. 5 minutes, please." He looked terrible. His suit was rumpled, his hair unkempt, his eyes red-rimmed. For a moment, I saw my brother again, instead of the enemy he'd become. "You have 2 minutes. Talk fast." He sat down heavily on one of the cafe chairs. "I've lost everything. Brennan dropped me. North Point is threatening to sue me. And my consulting business is dead before it started. I've spent $40,000 on lawyers for a case I can't win." "You did this to yourself, Tyler." "I know." His voice cracked. "I know I did. And I don't even know why anymore. When Mom died, all I could think was that she'd loved you more. That you'd gotten the things she really cared about. And I'd gotten the leftovers. The house, the money, none of it was her. But this place, this was her heart, and she gave it to you." Tears were running down his face now. I was so angry. And then North Point approached me, saw my business card at some networking event, asked if I had local connections for their project. They mentioned this corner, and I saw a chance to matter, to win something. I convinced myself I deserved half, that Mom hadn't been thinking clearly, that I was being cheated. I felt my own eyes stinging. "You were cheated, Tyler, but not by Mom. By yourself. You turned into someone who only sees dollar signs. Mom didn't love me more. She just saw that I loved what she loved. You could have had a relationship with her that meant something, but you were always looking past her, looking for the next opportunity. I know. His voice was barely a whisper. And now she's gone, and I've lost you too, and I destroyed it all for money I'm never going to see. I'm so sorry, Jenna. I'm so sorry. The police arrived then, and I had to decide what to do. Tyler had violated the restraining order. I could have him arrested right there. I'll give you a choice, I said slowly. You drop the lawsuit immediately. You sign a document relinquishing any and all claims to Sweet Haven, now and forever. You pay for the locksmith and the repairs for the cameras you installed. And you never contact me or my staff again. In exchange, I'll tell the police this was a misunderstanding and I don't want to press charges. Tyler looked broken. And if I don't? Then you get arrested for violating the restraining order, and I pursue every criminal charge David can think of. The cameras, the forgery, the fraud with North Point. You'll have a criminal record, and you'll never work in business again. It wasn't mercy. It was practicality. Prosecuting Tyler would mean more legal fees, more stress, more time away from rebuilding the life Mom had wanted for me. And despite everything, some small part of me still remembered the brother who'd let me win at board games and taught me to ride a bike. He signed the documents the next day. The lawsuit was dropped. I had the settlement agreement framed and hung in the office, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. That was 8 months ago. Tyler moved back to Toronto. He sent a check for the damages, along with a short note. I hope someday you can forgive me. I don't deserve it, but I hope. I haven't responded. I don't know if I ever will. Some betrayals change things permanently, and I'm still processing whether the brother I mourned ever really existed or if I'd just been too young to see who he always was. But Sweet Haven is thriving. The publicity from the legal battle brought new customers, and the community support showed me something I'd been too grief-stricken to see before. Mom hadn't just left me a business. She'd left me a family of hundreds of people who cared about what we represented. I've made changes, carefully. New equipment, paid for with a small business loan I qualified for based on our strong financials, a website for online ordering, baking classes on Sunday afternoons, teaching a new generation what Mom taught me. Margaret is now my partner, not in ownership, but in spirit. Louise is training to be head baker. Stephanie is managing our social media. Last week, a woman came in with her daughter, maybe 8 years old. My mom brought me here when I was her age, the woman said. I wanted her to taste the same cinnamon rolls I remember. Are they still the same? I smiled, thinking of Mom's recipe book, her careful instructions, her love baked into every measurement. They're exactly the same. Some things don't need to change. As they left, the little girl, happy with frosting on her face, I thought about what I'd learned through all of this. I learned that sometimes the people who should protect you are the ones you need protection from, and that's why legal documents matter. Mom's trust wasn't distrust in Tyler, it was trust in her own judgment about who he'd become. I learned that standing your ground is expensive and exhausting and absolutely worth it. Every time I wanted to give in, I thought about what Mom would lose if I did not just the bakery, but the proof that her love and planning had meant something. I learned that community is everything. When you build something real, something that serves people genuinely, they'll support you when it matters most. And I learned that grief and anger make people do terrible things, but they also reveal who people truly are. Tyler showed me his real self, and while it hurt, at least now I know. There's a kind of freedom in that clarity. I still miss Mom every single day. When I'm piping buttercream or pulling croissants from the oven, I sometimes turn to ask her a question before remembering she's not there. But in a way, she is. She's in every recipe, every satisfied customer, every tradition we maintain. She's in the trust fund that protected me and in the letter that gave me strength when I needed it most. Sweet Haven survived not just because of legal documents, but because Mom taught me that some things are worth fighting for. Not because they're profitable, but because they're meaningful. Because they connect us to each other, and to the past, and to something bigger than any individual's greed. Tyler wanted to turn this place into a parking lot for a development project. Instead, it's still here, still baking, still serving the neighborhood Mom loved. And every morning when I unlock the door at 5 a.m., I make sure to say thank you. To her, to the universe, to whatever allowed me to keep this place alive. The fight was hard, the betrayal was painful, but I won. More importantly, Mom won. Her legacy is safe, and the lesson she taught me that love, properly protected and fiercely defended, is stronger than greed is one I'll carry forever. If you're reading this and facing something similar, learn from what happened to me. Protect what matters legally and formally. Don't assume family members will do the right thing when money is involved. Document everything. Find people who support your vision, not people who see only dollar signs. And remember that the exhaustion of fighting for something real is better than the regret of surrendering it to someone who'll destroy it. Sweet Haven is more than a bakery. It's proof that some things, love, community, purpose, can't be stolen if you're willing to fight for them. Mom knew that. Now I do too. And on the mornings when I'm tired or doubting myself, I reread her letter, and I remember, I was chosen for this, not because it would be easy, but because I was the one who understood why it mattered. That's the inheritance Tyler could never see, and never steal the understanding that we're not just here to accumulate wealth, but to create meaning. And that's worth more than any development deal could ever be.